Hello guys, Scott with Heritage Farms. Hey, what an exciting weekend it is. My good friends at Yintatech, I think I'm saying that correctly, sent me a gift. They sent me something to evaluate. They wanted my input, and what they sent me was a Yintatech safety cage, which is basically a cage that helps a person on a forklift or a tractor if you're going up to heights to work on something, whether it's the ceiling, pruning trees, working on a building, barn, etc. So they sent it to me, and the packaging showed up. It was in pretty good shape, had a couple of tears, but for the most part, man, they did a pretty good job on this one. I didn't notice any visible tears or anything, but you know, there's just one thing about Yintatech I've noticed is they don't put instructions with any of their implements or anything. I guess they figure you're going to be smart enough to figure it out. So you can see in the video I'm unboxing it. There's miscellaneous pieces. The good news is everything appeared to be there. There were some harnesses. I'm assuming those are a safety harness. That's the little sheet of paper that basically, I don't know, it was written in foreign language. I couldn't read it. So I don't know, but it is what it is. So we're picking up the trash. We're going to get ready to assemble this. I apologize. It was an exceptionally windy day in North Texas. So once again, we're doing a voiceover as opposed to live audio on this. So we sped the video up a little bit just to show you, but you know, I think it took me somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or 30 minutes to put this together. And most of that was me just figuring out how to do it correctly. So you can see here, I'm trying to get the pallet forks adjusted where it slides on. Once we get the base in place, then I'm gonna raise it up here just so it's a comfortable work height. So there you go. So now we can start to put this together. So I'm no rocket scientist, but I figured out that, you know, maybe I should start. They got miscellaneous bolts and nuts and a couple of different sizes. And I pretty much figured out, well, let's start with the front gate. So I set the front gate in here and noticed there was like 4 holes at the bottom. So I'm getting my nuts. My plan of attack is I'm going to actually just hand tighten all of the hardware, and then I'll come back once I got it all assembled and tighten everything up permanently. So right now I'm just sorting out the nuts and bolts, getting the long ones together, the short ones together, making sure we have all the nuts that fit the bolts, and so far everything looks pretty good. So I'm pleased with the packaging. I'm pleased with how the hardware was packaged. All in all, at this point, I'm pretty happy. The unit's extremely well built. I've seen some less expensive safety cages out there on Amazon, and they seem to be pretty cheap. And there's a couple of videos on YouTube of some of the cheap ones just not holding up really well. But this thing is rigid. I love the fact that it's got diamond plate on the bottom and makes it kind of nice. Hardware all looks good, so I'm putting up the back piece of the cage now. Same drill. Come in here, you put basically just hand tightening the hardware, just trying to get everything to stand up on its own. And we'll come back here and put the side supports on in just a second. It's kind of an overcast, cloudy day, man. The wind was blowing 20 or 30 miles out of the north. Just wasn't a very pleasant day in North Texas, so apologize for that, guys. So here's the side braces. They are threaded on each end, so you don't need a nut. You just actually put a bolt through each end. Uh-oh, here comes my beautiful wife, the CEO, CFO of Heritage Farms. She's coming to check out the progress. So, and our dog Kimber is running around in the background if you see her. So I got to be on top of my game now that the boss has showed up. All right, so we're just continuing to put this together. And you can see, once again, I'm sticking with my game plan, just hand tightening all the nuts and bolts, trying to make sure everything is put together and good to go. So that's what we're doing at this stage. And you can kind of see here, these little side supports, I'm pretty happy with them. They're like 1-inch square metal. They're not flimsy. I was a little worried they might be a little cheap or anything, but I feel like if a guy was in here and was getting bounced around, I think the cage will definitely support you. It's heavy duty. Pretty impressed with that part of it. So yeah, that's kind of what we're working on here. So what I'm doing now is tracking down the proper sockets and hardware and ratchets to come through here. And now you can see I'm starting to hand tighten everything with the wrenches, getting it all kind of tightened up. And they have an Allen head on one side and a nut on the other. So now we're just kind of slowly tightening things. I like to work from different sides. Instead of tightening one connection all the way, I like to kind of go around and tighten each one a little bit. That way it evens up, everything is secure. If you need to move anything around 1/8 of an inch to get it to lined up, you can. But man, so far so good. Really love the yellow, orange paint, whatever you want to call this. I guess it's yellow. It's kind of a safety color. Really stands out. I don't think it's powder coated. I think it is painted. But all in all, it looks good. The fit and finish is high quality. I'm pretty impressed with this. So these guys really did a good job on building this cage for the money. You can see right now I'm putting the latch in here. It's one of these latches, I call it a flip latch. You kind of slide it over to the left. It allows the gate to open and close. And then you flip it over to the right and it actually keeps the gate in place, or the door in place. There's an example of what it looks like. You can see how the gate or the door opens and shuts. But yeah, I'm just kind of going through here now and tightening each nut and bolt a little bit more, getting them all secure and at the same time. So once again, nothing complicated about the construction or putting this together. It's just a little time consuming, but hey, you should be able to accomplish this task in 30 minutes, worst case scenario. It would have been nice to have some instructions, but hey, once again, I'm a smart guy. I can figure stuff out. So I'm going to lower it down now, get it a little bit lower to the ground so I can actually come in here and put the back panel on. And this is an important safety feature, this back panel, because what it does is, it gives the whoever's riding in there, it gives them something to lean against. Also, it protects you from the forklift, or in this case, the tractor. There's some moving parts back there with the hydraulic cylinders. Things are tilting. You don't want to get your hands smashed or crushed. So I really like the fact that it has a 6-foot safety barrier on the back of the cage protecting you from the tractor. Or if you were putting this on a forklift, it would protect you from the forklift. So it's a pretty heavy duty piece. My only complaint, I guess, if there is one, is, it's a pretty big item. So you're going to have to store this all the time. So it will take up some space in the barn. It's 36 by 36, I believe. Maybe even larger than that, but you can look at it. It's a nice basket. I feel pretty comfortable if I got to go up in here. The welds all look good. The only thing I didn't like on that top portion was there was only 2 nuts and bolts that held it in place. But it seemed to be pretty secure. I would have loved it if it would have had 4. Now here's my biggest complaint. They put this safety harness in here, and it's high quality. Everything looks great, but they don't give you any instructions on how to put the harness together or how to install it. So I'm going to have to do a little research on that. I'm not sure if I did this correctly either. There was 2 little straps, but it looks to me like they wanted you to use straps to hold the basket on the pallet forks. I can tell you, when we actually use this, I'm probably going to replace those orange straps with a chain with a hook and be able to secure that and tighten it down. Me personally, I just don't want to be up there with a little cheap buckle holding me in place in the event if there's a hydraulic failure or in the event of an operator error. But here's an example of how we're going to use this. And one thing I quickly realized, my tractor is a little bit of a base tractor, and on the front end loader, it does not have a self-leveler. So as I'm raising it, I have to adjust the angle at the same time. Some of the more expensive tractors have a self-leveling, which would work great. Unfortunately, mine does not have that luxury, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. You just have to be careful when you have an occupant in there. You probably don't want a rookie tractor driver working this as you're in there, but you can kind of see as I come down how I'm having to adjust the angles. But what a great idea, man. You can see just how easy it was to get up there, especially if I'm pruning with a pruning saw or a tree saw or a limb saw, how easy it is to get that up there. So what we're going to do now, time out. There's Kimber Cat, the company dog. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to pull over to the barn because I have some rough or some loose metal on top of this barn. And at some point in the near future, I'm going to have to get up there and actually put some screws in it to get some of the sheet metal down. And I want you to see, this is an example of how we can use this tractor with this safety cage. So if you had an occupant in there, you could raise up here, and it's pretty tall. So, you know, the fact that we don't need a ladder, that's great. And you can see here, I'm starting to raise it up. And notice how I'm having to manually tilt to keep it level as I raise it. But if you were moving fast, it might be a little jolting to the occupant of the cage. But you can see how easy it would be to get up there to actually work on the corner of the barn. Of course, you need to be a little bit closer, but you get the idea. You guys are smart. You see what's going on. Hey, this is a great time in the video just to say, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and it'll keep you updated when we post future videos. Leave us a comment. Love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think about the product. We'll also put a link in the description and on how to get to their Amazon page to pick one out. So all in all, that was a great example. So I think what I'll do now is we'll pull over here to the self-storage building and show you an example of if we needed to get on top of it, how you can use this. The possibilities are really unlimited. I mean, you hear all these stories about the old timers would tell you, well, we just took the front end bucket and one guy would sit in the bucket and another would raise us up. Well, the problem with that is the bucket's it's rounded in there and it's not level and it's dangerous. I mean, you can slip and fall. At least with this, you have a level surface. If we can figure out the harness, you would actually strap yourself into this cage so that it would really minimize the risk of you falling. Even if the basket was turned at a severe angle, it would keep you from falling out of the basket. But here's an example of if we needed to get on the roof, just how easy it would be if you had somebody to drive you up there. You could pop out, get your work done, get back in and bring it back down. But the possibilities are endless on how you can use this. So very, very nice implement. I'm honored and delighted that Yintatech had the confidence in me to do a review on this product. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys if you're in the market looking for a safety cage. But yeah, you can see our pecan orchard, and this is a fairly young orchard. It's only going to get bigger and the trees are going to get taller. And I can see this coming into play more and more. It never fails that we'll have a storm, a limb will break. We'll have to get up there with a pole saw, and it just makes it easier. So I'm going to pull up here next to our overhead storage bin, just so you can get a representation of how this thing looks, also how high we can lift the basket. We'll put a few pictures in here. But once again, you see how when I start to raise, it's at an angle. So I have to level it out, raise a little bit more, level it. If you're really good on the joystick, you can probably raise it and level it at the same time, but the key is just moving slow. So there's a good representation, man. So, you know, that's 5 or 6 feet off the ground. If you're a 5 or 6 foot tall person and you have a pole saw, all of a sudden you're reaching 15, 20 feet up in the trees. And I thought that was just a great little example of what the product looks like. So, but yeah, check out Amazon. These guys also have a website you can check out. But man, for the money, I think this is one of the best safety cages around. Here's how high it will go. You can see here, it's an example of me in it. Once again, I didn't have the safety harness on, didn't want to go any higher than that at the moment. But hey, check it out. I think you guys will like it. I'm very pleased with it. But once again, please subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. Love to hear from you. Smash that thumbs up button. Also helps our channel tremendously. And go out to Yintatech and buy something. Check these guys out. I'm very pleased with them. And let me tell you what, from the time they tell you they're going to send you something, it literally shows up within 48 hours. My only gripe would be, it would have been nice to have some safety chains to hold the basket. Would have been nice if the packaging would have been a little more robust, but all in all, it's great. And as always, guys, glory be to God. Have a great week.